This is episode 277 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Rod Khleif. Rod is an entrepreneur, real estate investor, multiple business owner, author, mentor, and community philanthropist. He is the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast and the author of the best-selling book, How to Create Lifetime Cash Flow Through Multifamily Properties. Rod, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Jonathan. Let's have some fun today.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you, and I want to go right into it because your book is about multifamily and lifetime cash flow. But how did you get there? Because I know you didn't start in multifamily and something happened to make you get smarter about how you were investing.
I don't know about that, but definitely something happened.
Yeah.
So I'm a Dutch immigrant. In fact, it's funny. I've got some fun. Hey, hang on. I got to show you.
Yeah.
I've got some props back here. I got my wooden shoes.
Yeah,
They tie into a funny story. But anyway, yeah. So windmills and wooden shoes. I immigrated when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert, my mother's Vansha, and we ended up in Denver, Colorado. And I lived there for 30 years. But we really struggled when we first got there. I remember my mom babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat, and we shopped at a day-old food bread store. We ate expired food. We drank powdered milk with our cereal in the morning because it was cheaper than real milk. And I wore clothes from the Goodwill and Salvation Army all the way through junior high school. And I know people listening had it harder, maybe even have it harder now. But, I knew I wanted more. And luckily, my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat, like I said. And with her babysitting money, she was a bit of an entrepreneur. So she invested in stock market successfully, but also in real estate with no formal education. And so the first real estate acquisition was a house right across the street from us. She bought when I was about 14 for about 30 grand. Then when I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep. And this is when 20,000 was a lot of money. We're talking 1977. Okay. And I'm like, what? You made 20 grand? You didn't do anything? Screw college. I'm getting into real estate. So I went out and got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18. You could do it back then with education. Now they got smart. To be a broker and have your own office, you got to have, some experience. But I was going to be rich in real estate. Well, my first year in real estate, I made about 8 grand. My second year, maybe 10 grand. But my third year, I made over $100,000, which back in 1980 was some real change.
Yeah.
And so what happened between year 2 and year 3 to cause me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy, I was dating his daughter, and he taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology and how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset. And so, fast forward to today, I've owned 2,000 houses that I've rented long-term in 3 states. I own thousands of apartment units now. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And you might say, wow. And I said, wow. And I got a head so big, I could barely fit it through a door. I thought I was a real estate god. When that happens, God of the universe will give you a nice little smack. Well, that was 2008.
Yeah.
I lost $50 million conservatively in 2008. And so what I'm known for talking about on my podcast and, when I get in front of an audience is really the habits that it took to have 50 million to lose in the first place and the mindset it took. And maybe more importantly, the mindset it took to recover from that to the success that I have today. And, I'm happy to drill down on that with you because the same strategies I use to recover are the ones that someone can use to get started. The next piece is you got to make a decision. And it's the same thing again. If you're just getting started, you haven't done anything yet, start with the goals, then you make a decision. And I don't mean dip your toe in the water. I don't mean 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I mean, it is freaking done. You've decided you're going to go do this and try this thing. Now you got to pick what your vehicle's going to be. You can do it in flipping and wholesaling houses. You can buy businesses. There's going to be incredible opportunities with the baby boomers to buy businesses.
Absolutely.
If it's multifamily, get your butt to one of my boot camps. Whatever it is, pick your vehicle. But then you got to make a decision to take freaking action, okay? And the Latin root for the word decision means to cut off. It means if, it's like I said, it's not a 1 foot in, out. It's done when you make that decision. And I guess a great metaphor for that is if you're going to attack the island, you burn your ships because you're taking their ships home. That's a decision. It's done. See, motivation will get you started, but it's that decision that'll bring you home. And when you've finally decided and you're committed, when you just make a decision, you'll be committed. And then you're like a train on a track. If you're not committed, you're going to get knocked off track. And so decision is the next piece after you've done your goals. Then after that, you've got to take that first step. you got to do something, right? And it can be a small step, but like Dr. Martin Luther King said, you take that first step in faith, the next step will be revealed. Lao Tzu 1,000 years ago said the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but you got to take that step. You got to take some action. Okay. And, and don't get caught up in analysis paralysis or fear because, and don't think you have to see the whole path to take action either. Remember this, you can drive all the way across the United States at night with your headlights seeing 50 feet in front of you. You may have some obstacles, but other people have done it before you and you'll make it. It's the same way with any of your goals, but you've just got to get started. And that's the first step. You don't go ahead.
Yeah. Let me just hit the analysis paralysis thing for a second, because I've always said that I don't think that's real. I think analysis paralysis comes from a lack of confidence because people are not trying to do any work to get there. So they sit around and say, well, I'm not sure, multifamily storage, it all looks good, but it's just a procrastination method because they don't really want to do the work.
The next thing let's talk about is integrity. In another podcast, I recently talked about a sham lawsuit that was put against me 20 years ago. It led to an investigation of the attorney general that had political aspirations back then. And I was completely exonerated, but I was investigated. I was cleared of any wrongdoing in the investigation, but I learned an important lesson in that. First of all, have a great contracts attorney, okay? But that was a piece of it. And recently I had a so-called investigative journalism piece pop up on a sham website, trying to discredit me and disparage me. I think it was a competitor or, I can't even remember the name, but they tried to make me look bad, making all sorts of BS claims. And, this stuff pops up from time to time. Every couple of years, somebody's got an axe to grind. Well, I turn it into a teaching opportunity for my students. Very rarely, but once in a great while, we'll even see people commenting negatively about me of their supposed experiences with me. And I've had over 15,000 people, 15,300, I think, at my boot camps. And I think we found 14 quasi-negative comments total online. So 14. But even with that minuscule number of complaints, I take complaints very seriously, and 95% of the time, or 99% of the time, we look these people up and to try to contact them. They've never even done business with us. So, there's no record of them. They're likely competitors, but, or like I said, or this nefarious ex-partner I'm litigating against. But here's the bottom line. When you get into this business or any business for that matter, it's important to operate with integrity. That's our number one core value in all my businesses. And get competent legal help, of course, with your business model. But integrity, it's our number one core value, and it should be yours as well. You do what's right, even if it hurts. And that helps insulate you from the BS, like some of the stuff that I've been dealing with. So integrity is the next piece. The next thing I want to talk about is playing to your strengths. Now, in the single family space, you can do it yourself. I bought 2,000 houses mostly by myself, and I rented them out. But the multifamily space or other commercial real estate, it really is a team sport.
Yeah,
and you shouldn't try to do it all. There's lots of different hats you can wear. In my business, you could be the one that finds the deals. You could be the analytical one that analyzes the deals. You could be process driven or have construction or management experience and be the one that does the asset management. So there's lots of different hats. Play to your strengths. Don't try to build your weaknesses. Your strengths are your greatest assets. And when you play to your strengths, first of all, you love what you're doing because you're playing to your strengths. So you never really work another day in your life. I love what I do. And that's the other piece of this is when you're playing to your strengths, you have passion, and that passion is the fuel, and that passion gives you the ability to influence people. People want to be around people that are passionate about what they do. That's why your podcast is so successful as well. You've got passion that you bring to this. And so play to your strengths and then hire, align, or partner with your weaknesses. That passion breeds innovation. It breeds creativity. And then when you have a speed bump, it's not really anything. You just push right through it because you're passionate and you're loving what you do. So again, figure out what it is you love. Go do that. If you decide to do real estate, you figure out you don't love it, for God's sakes, go do something else. Life is too short.
And one thing you said before, I want to touch on before we hop off. I think buying businesses is just huge. I'm a big follower of Cody Sanchez, and I look at business buying and what people are doing and who owns the business and what their kids really want to do. And they don't want to run the businesses. No. And to me, if you combine what can't be replaced by AI with businesses that are available, it just looks like an absolute gold mine to me.
Or what can be enhanced with AI.
Right, yeah.
Okay. And I got to tell you, there's so many baby boomers, and I'm a boomer. I just turned 65. I'm on the starting edge of it, but there's so many boomers that have businesses that they're going to want to retire from, and nobody's there to buy them. And you can cut deals. You know, I tell you, if there were two of me, one would definitely be buying businesses. I don't have the bandwidth myself, but I love it. I love talking about it. I love looking at it. But you know, so there's lots of vehicles, guys. You just got to pick one, and then decide, take action, go learn it, and then massive freaking action. And like I say, if you're willing to grind for a few years like most people won't, you live your rest of your life like most people can't. And that's a fact. So, you know, make a decision, take action, figure out how you're going to learn whatever it is you're going to go after, and just go freaking do it.